Kim, we're on whenever you're ready.
Okay. Yeah, just a sec. That's what I need. All right, whenever you're ready. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, we on?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Welcome to the regular town council meeting Monday, May 12th for the town of St. Paul. I'm very happy to see all the faces that are here. At this time, I'd like to take a roll call. Mr. Albert?
Mr. Simmons.
Here.
Mr. Graham.
Here.
Mr. Swanner.
Here.
Mr. Dryden.
Here.
Mr. Trevino and Mr. Nail are out.
That's correct. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we do have a quorum. So at this time, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, if you will. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We have a few general announcements I'd like to share with our viewers and people that are here. If you'll look at your guide 3.1, within the coming weeks, the town will implement traffic control devices along Lakeway Drive, prohibiting parking in certain areas between 7 and 7 p.m. on certain areas. And we're also going to put in a designated loaning zone. And so that's for the food districts that are there. So that's something that's coming up. Simplified Painting recently completed the second phase of implementing the stop bars in St. Paul. That will be on the, I guess you call it east side of Parker Road, which took place in the residential areas on the east side. I'd like to bring to your attention the second big road project, which is about to begin in St. Paul. Everybody's aware of the Parker Road one, Park Boulevard. The bid has been created and it's going to be starting. This project is expected to be completed by the end of 2027. As the Park Boulevard expansion progresses alongside the other ongoing improvements in St. Paul, we encourage everyone to remain especially mindful and attentive when traveling through the affected communities along these corridors. At this time also, 3-4, the town's public notification system, Everbridge, will officially launch on June 1. Residents who wish to receive updates regarding weather events, street closures, and other important announcements will be able to sign up for notifications through the town's website beginning on that date. That's going to be, you'll be able to get tornado warnings, hail warnings, not the watches right now, we're just doing warnings. Your traffic out here, the updates on that, and if we need to reach people once they signed up, we can have that ability to reach back out to you. So it's a great thing that we did manage to get through, and Alex has done a great job in getting this up and running, Scott, and it's moving forward. At this time, we're having the public comments section. Individuals are invited to address the council regarding any item on the meeting agenda or on matters not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will be allotted up to 3 minutes. To ensure the speakers have an opportunity to be heard and maintain meeting efficiency, the mayor may adjust the speaking time as needed. Right now I see a lot of people and only see 2 forums, so is that correct? Just don't want to miss anybody. And at this point, since there's only 2, Bob London?
Yes.
You're up.
Okay. My comments are addressing
Say your name and address, please.
Bob London, 2450 Butcher's Block. And I want to address agenda item 5.8, which has taken some really unhealthy swings at me personally and have been uncalled for. They could just discuss updating the town boundary maps, but they want to go and question my role as a city employee, and it's a real underhanded jab on the part of the city secretary to undress me. So that's fine. I've got a comment I want to read into the record. I've got a copy for each person on council. Thank you. So you guys can have it to refer to at a later date.
Thank you.
So I'll read this when, give everybody history. I've been in the town for 41 years. I served two terms on council, 13 years on P&Z, and 8 years as city secretary. I've got a pretty good working knowledge of the history of the town, how things work, and the general lay of the land. But when the town was originally incorporated, the town fathers worked extremely hard to try and get people to annex into the city limits. In order to reduce the tax burden for some property owners who were real hesitant to come into the city limits, many lots were only partially annexed in. They brought in the front part of the lot and left the back part of the lot in the county to save the person on paying property tax on their whole piece of property. There are numerous lots around town like this. All the town maps dating back to the 70s reflect these boundaries, and they reflect which lots were not entirely in the city and which ones were. The annexation status of these lots remained unchanged since the original incorporation of the town, and every map since that time has reflected that fact. The director of the GIS mapping for Collin County Central Appraisal District can confirm the exact meets and bounds for every property that is either entirely or partially within the city limits. During my term as secretary, KSA Engineers, our current engineering firm, was asked to help develop a new up-to-date town map. The research they did not include any confirmation from Collin County Central Appraisal District or their GIS mapping department as to the accuracy of the meets and bounds that their assumptions were based on. After they developed their first draft of the map, they presented to the town and asked for input about any mistakes that were on this map. After careful review and concurrence by Mayor Walter, and after comparing KSA's first draft to the known pre-existing town boundary maps, corrections were made to their first draft. This was not an official boundary map, and it had never been adopted by council. We were working through the process. The current town secretary has alleged that when I was serving as town secretary, I made modifications to an official town boundary map. This is untrue. The corrections were only made to a draft that was filled with inaccuracies. The allegations made by the secretary that unauthorized modifications to the official boundary map are an out-and-out lie, since the corrections were made as part of a process to come up with a map that was as correct as possible. Two previous mayors can attest that the old town boundary map showing some tracts partially in and partially out are essentially the same as the corrections that we made to KSA's first draft. It's quite possible even Councilman Simmons is aware of the content of the previous maps, all of which were drawn up and relied upon by this council prior to my appointment as town secretary. All these maps were being used by town and relied on by town, and essentially were the same maps that we were looking at trying to update, but no major changes were to it. The county tax records dating back to the 70s affirm that the corrections that we made to the first draft are essentially correct, and these records can be produced as proof. Then the town secretary showed me an old map that he found in a warehouse that he purports to be a correct rendition of the town boundaries. He'd like to convince those of you on council that this is a correct map, that it's filled with errors, it was never adopted by the council, and it would require the town to force annex and levy property taxes against properties that have never been in the town. St. Paul does not have the power to force annex any property, and that would open them up to some legal repercussions. So the question is, why is the town secretary attacking my character and accusing me of tampering with town maps, which he has done to several people? He's even expressed the desire to go pursue criminal charges against me for doing my job and trying to come up with a correct map. So he's done nothing but display a contentious attitude toward me since December of 2024. In December of 2024, I requested that an item be put on the agenda. By your own ordinance, any person wishing to propose any subject to the council agenda must do so through and with the concurrence of the mayor or an alderman at least least 7 days prior to the meeting. I submitted my request 14 days or more prior to the meeting, so it should have been on the December agenda. It was not. Then I was told, oh, well, we'll put it on the January agenda. Mine was not put on the January agenda. Same in February, and it just got continued to be ignored. Then on February 13th, he tried to put my topic on a P&Z agenda. I had requested, as the ordinance allows, a hearing with council to discuss my issue. I'm getting an end run. Now he's trying to put it on a P&Z. It had nothing to do with P&Z. I was continuing to get stonewalled. At this point, I was utterly frustrated. So I withdrew my request to be heard by council, and I did it in writing. Then, after receiving my withdrawal request, he attempted to slide this onto agenda for March without notifying me. Fortunately, the mayor forced me to remove the topic from the agenda because I was pretty well done with it. But the council should not put up with this type of conduct from an employee. It's unexcusable to deny a legitimate request to be heard by council. It's more reprehensible to attack my character and integrity by false allegations of tampering with maps when I had nothing to gain by doing so. The capricious and aloof manner in which the secretary runs this town is reprehensible and should not be tolerated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lumber.
Can I ask, Bobby, since it's on the agenda, can I ask Bob a question?
I believe that is allowed, correct?
It's on the agenda.
Okay.
So Bob, who is the concurrence, which alderman or mayor, it was the mayor?
The mayor.
On the mayor?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
So, at this time, Bill King, please stand and name and address, please, for the record.
I'm gonna probably see it when I read back, it's a little sore. Bill King, 803 West Shore Drive, City of St. Paul. These are my observations, opinions, and concerns of the City of St. Paul City Council. 3 of the council members chose to run for council for one reason: to stop the ICW members from parking on their street. A business operating without a CO. The council has spent a year and thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to stop them from parking on the street. The council has now committed no parking signs and painted curbs that restrict parking from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which will probably be a burden to the residents. Problem solved, but not by these measures. The church moved. All the time and money a waste when all the city had to do is abide by its ordinances, find the church, lock the doors if CO's not in place in 30 days. The city could have made money by the fines, but didn't have the fortitude to do so. At a city council meeting several months ago, a noticeable tiff between the mayor and the city secretary became very obvious. According to sources, there followed a meeting between the mayor and the city secretary with Mr. Dryden in attendance. At some point in the meeting, the city secretary proclaimed he quits his job with the city and walked out. I understand at this time Mr. Dryden made a comment to the mayor that he should call the hiring agency and look for another city secretary, which was the right thing to do. Why this was not done, I have no answer, but believe further investigation is needed. To further complicate the situation, I've learned that 1 or 2 councilmen, after some time, took it upon themselves to talk to said city secretary and convince him to return to his previous position, and he did. This, I believe, is a violation of the hiring law set forth by the state of Texas, and that the city secretary is therefore illegitimate. I also understand that the time between the secretary quitting and the probable illegal hiring of the city secretary, said secretary emailed the ex-mayor and provided false information about ordinances regarding the current city councilman's private property. I will be requesting all emails and phone records from all city council members and employees under Open Records Act to prove these actions and more nefarious actions and inactions by the city secretary and the council. I understand this illegitimate city secretary has gone rogue also. He has, without approval from the city, decided to remap the city of St. Paul. Who on the council has approved of this time and expenditure? Was it brought before the council? When? When did the council approve the spending tens of thousands of dollars in secretary's payroll and legal fees to redraw the map of St. Paul, and why? The council knows about this effort and has chosen to not stop this wasteful, non-approved effort. And all the while, our streets have gone without maintenance. The court agreement with the city of Parker is not complete. The Everbridge and Nixle deal has been finalized by the city, but has not been discussed with Inspiration. I understand that that's part of the mayor's pet project. Financials have not been completed on a monthly basis, and this lame duck council did not let the people of St. Paul vote on the ESD project the county is putting forth, which will in turn let people in the ETJ of City of St. Paul remove themselves from the ETJ, and the city will lose what little control it had over said properties because the illegitimate road secretary told them to. Full disclosure, I have property on this list. It may be in the city. Let me describe the situation the secretary is getting the city into. I have 5.4 acres, give or take. It is zoned ag. My current taxes that the city would collect would be $15.09 a year. If my property is left out of the city and emergency services is required, guess what? It's on me. However, if I'm in the city, it's on you. An emergency call costs the city $2,377 under the current contract. Do the math. One call costs the city $2,377 divided by $15.09 per year. Will take 157.52 years to recoup one emergency call. Now, with this council's money management decision so far, I guess you all think this is a good deal. I do not. So, redraw the map, put my city in, I'll make out like a bandit. I will concede not all properties will have the same outcome, but I highly recommend the city to look before it leaps and stop listening to a secretary that has no skin in this city's game. Trust, then investigate. The council is extremely lucky to have a mayor that puts in the time this mayor does. He puts in more time in a day than the rest of the council does all month. I, as well as several of the citizens that have attended council meetings, have all noticed that the council members look like they just received the agenda as they walk through the door. Kind of like picking up the bulletin when you go to church. You have a dedicated mayor. Let him run the city. Let him pick the people he wants to work with him. He picks. You vote him in. Look, the city will never be a real city. We'll never have law enforcement. We'll never have our own fire department, city parks, outdoor concerts, unless you live close to Cullen Park Marina. But if you spend wisely, weed out older homes, be nice to the residents, try to make St. Paul a place where people want to live, maybe this council won't go down in history as the last council of the city of St. Paul.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Since I have no more public comments, we'll move on to the regular agenda. Is
You want
this?
a copy of that?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Also, I have a file, Freedom of Information Act. Do I give that to y'all or him? Do I get it signed?
Yeah, you should.
Okay. Well, I got a copy. Do you sign one and do one?
I'll send it.
I didn't put my email on there. Let me do that. Sorry.
Okay, at this time, we'll move on to the regular agenda items. If you look at 5.1, discussion and possible action on ordinance number 281-25-05-12, canvassing the election returns for May 3rd, 2025. General election for the purpose of electing 3 members to the St. Paul Town Council, place number 1, 2, and 4, for a 2-year term. We have
Mayor, you should have the certified results.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
We do
they
have the
should be
certified
sent
results
back
in at this time. They weren't in your packet. They are in now.
And the results do align
Confirm.
with what's in the ordinance as well.
So do I have any discussion on the canvassing totals? Okay. If there's,
So,
hang on, Robert.
verbally, just to make sure that we're clear, so Larry Nail, for place 1, received 57.58%.
That's correct.
That's correct.
And Jason Sabatka?
Sabatka.
42.42.
42.42. And then for place 2, David Dryden at 86% of the vote,
Correct.
and David Thomas Kinsler had 14% of the vote.
Correct.
And then for place 4, JT Trevino got 100% because there's nobody running against him.
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to verbalize that.
Thank you, Robert, I appreciate that. So if we don't have any discussion, do we have a motion?
Is there an official motion that we need to make?
Now move to approve ordinance number 28125.
Shut up.
All right,
Sorry about that.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 281250512, canvassing the election returns of May 3rd, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
You say aye?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries on the canvassing results. So after accepting canvass results on 5-2, the administration of the oath of office and presentation of the certified certificate of election. So Larry Nail, our current councilman, is unavailable. JT is also the other one unavailable. David Dryden, if you would like to stand and take the oath. Sure. To your form. There we go. Stand, please. Raise your right hand, please.
Mayor, you had the right one, I'm sorry. I thought you picked up the wrong one. Go ahead.
I'm sorry?
You had the right one.
Okay. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, please repeat after me. I, David Dryden,
I, David Dryden,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of office
that I will faithfully execute the duties of office
of Alderman Seat 2
of Alderman Seat 2 of
of the state of Texas,
the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States and of this state.
and laws of the United States and the state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We will, I believe Larry Nell's going to show, thank you guys. And I appreciate everybody that voted. It was another good election turnout, so I do appreciate that very much.
Presentation of the certificate of election, which was right behind.
Is that the one on the back?
Right. Correct.
Correct? Okay. So at this time, it's your certificate of election from me. I did not sign. From the state of Texas, certifies that David S. Dryden is Alderman Seat 2.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your service very, very much. Thank you, Scott. So at this time, 5-3, we'll move on. A discussion and possible action on appointing the mayor pro tem. Currently, David's been serving as our mayor pro tem. Do I have any discussion?
David, would you be obliged to continue?
Sure. Okay.
I'd like to motion that David continue as a mayor pro tem for the town of St. Paul.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Welcome, Mayor Pro Tem. At this time, a public hearing to consider zoning applications submitted by the DFW Connection Point, represented by Joel Halpin, requesting to zone a 2.937 acre tract located at 2601 Parker Road to R 1.5 single-family residential district. Do I have a motion to open a public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, the public hearing is open for comments.
I'll start. My name is Joel Hoffman. I'm the pastor of Connection Point Church. And if you have been to any of the meetings in the last, the council meetings in the last year, you've probably seen me. I've done everything I can to just be available. I also am very familiar listening in to the concerns due to other houses of worship, other religious organizations. So I've tried to listen very well to all of the concerns. And so tonight, in the 3 items that we have, I hope that hopefully just being here consistently, it's built up enough trust that if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, we've tried to address everything that we can and that has been asked of us. And so hopefully, when we proceed with our church, hopefully it will be a blessing to the city. I met with the mayor earlier this year, and I told him, I said, our main hope for our church is that we are a blessing to the city of St. Paul. And we hope that this town will just be blessed by our presence and that we will serve you well. And so every concern, everything that we have heard, from parking to drainage to sewage, septic, all of the things we've tried to address tonight, and make sure that y'all have full confidence in our church being good partners, and that when we have a concern, we've heard it, and we're trying to differentiate ourselves to build trust with the community. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Pastor.
Anyone else have any public comments? Pretty quiet. Thank you, Joel.
I'll make a
I
motion.
have a quick question. I'm so sorry. There's going to be another public hearing for the second portion, right?
That's
correct.
correct.
This is just for rezoning,
Yeah,
correct?
this is for
Perfect. Thank you.
R15.
R15 zoning, to change that to R1.5. That's correct. Motion to close has been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, the public hearing is closed. Move on to 5.5, discussion and possible action regarding the ordinance number 282-25-05-12, the request from the DFW Connection Point, request to zone the 2.937 acre tract located at 2601 Parker Road to R1.5 single family residential district. It's open for discussion.
What's the zone now?
It's not zoned at all, I believe it's just
Well, currently it's
on the
shown on the
survey.
town zoning map as R1.5. And if you recall, we had this discussion early in December, right before December, about the town zoning map and some of the issues involving the zoning map. Going forward, if we had an opportunity to adopt an ordinance officially zoning it, Clark felt like that was the best position the town should take at the time. So if we don't have an official ordinance, levying that specific zoning classification on that property, we should move forward with that. We don't have an ordinance that specifically addresses the zoning for the DFW connection point as an R1.5. We just show it on the map as R1.5. So this is making it more official, which is clean for DFW connection and for the town. So if there's ever any additional property transactions in the future, there's an ordinance that aligns with what's
It's very similar, I believe, to what we did with the Giovanni's
Giovanni's,
property.
correct.
Makes sense?
Okay. Discussion, Robert? David? Okay, do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve ordinance 282-25-05-12 to request the 2.937 acre tract located at 2601 Parker Road to R1.5 single family residential district.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 5.6, again, a public hearing to consider a request submitted by DFW Connection Point Church, represented by Joel Halpin, for a specific use permit on 2.937 acre tract located at 2601 Parker Road. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is now open. Joel, since you're standing, do you have anything?
I do, she can go first.
You go first.
I was just going to introduce, we have two of our elders at the back, Mike Masulo and John Williams, and we also have Mike Myers, who's representing Spire Engineering for us, and so any technical questions or concerns Mike will address. And Mike is also part of our church, an elder of our church.
Does he have any comments that he would like to say or anything?
Mike, everything to say?
No, if anybody has any technical questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, I do appreciate that.
Awesome.
Please.
I know y'all are tired of me, I'm so sorry. So this is regarding, I think it's point 22 on the SUP. We worked on it at the P&Z meeting. It's just regarding the use of the current structure that they have on the property for administration and things like that while they're in the process of building. I just want to point out that it's important to clarify that the approval of the SUP does not grant DFW Connection Point immediate authorization to utilize the existing residential structure for administrative or operational activities, such as business meetings, sermon preparation, or study groups, etc. Use of the building for these purposes is contingent upon full compliance with all applicable commercial regulations. That includes obtaining a new CO, constructing the required masonry wall, and meeting standards for parking, lighting, septic system, drainage, and screening as specified in the SUP. These requirements must be satisfied, as it says specifically in that SUP, before any occupancy or use of the building for administrative functions can commence. This compliance is mandatory upon approval of the SUP, and it looks like it is not deferred until the proposed December 2026 groundbreaking deadline. All commercial entities in the town are expected to adhere to these guidelines prior to initiating operations, and I think that they should also be held to the same standards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Does the current SUP allow them to do administrative functions now?
They were issued a CO to work within the current existing facility.
And so-
Yes.
Is the SUP request today, does that nullify that?
What will be nullified if you approve that SUP this evening, it will nullify the existing SUP, and in this current SUP, they're going to have to file for a new CO.
Okay, so we're basically, they're allowed to do administrative work now.
Currently, right.
And if we approve their SUP tonight, they can no longer do administrative work in that building.
They're going to file for a CEO this week.
Okay.
Okay.
But if we get the CO, we will be able to, and I'm asking for clarity, because our hope is that for us to build a masonry wall and then start construction, we would have to, building.
Let me help you. So there was a proposal that came from P&Z before they could occupy the building, even for a temporary period of time. They would have to build a parking lot, they would have to build a masonry wall, similar to what you do for the entire project. It's not directly written like that in the current SUP that's before you this evening. That's pretty cumbersome. If you move forward and build part of the project and come back later and build it, that's a lot of additional cost. I don't think that's necessary. We wouldn't recommend it as staff. Go back, issue the CEO that was there previously, so it aligns with the current.
We are building
CEO that's out
retaining
there.
walls,
Right.
and so for the main project, and so the masonry wall would be, sorry.
The CEO would be specifically for no more than 15 occupants at any one time, and it'd only be for administrative functions related to the church and preschool. That's it.
I'm sorry. So
Please.
just to say, on the SUP, Scott, the way we were talking about it at P&Z, and it does say it in there that they must comply. So I'm not saying that this is fair, so don't take that as what it is. What I'm trying to say is if this was any other office structure using it, if I wanted to build an office space or use an existing office space, I would have to have all these things in place before I was able to use my office space. So I don't know if it needs to be addressed in that way, because I agree, I think that's a little far-fetched to make them do this twice or make them do extra stuff ahead of time just to use the current building as office space. But I do feel like if I was a business owner doing it for myself, y'all would still make me follow those same guidelines, so I would expect the same for them. And my worry is that we're over a year out from the groundbreaking deadline, so you potentially have a year and a quarter where where the facility can be used as office space without following any of those guidelines. And like I mentioned in P&Z, I've seen businesses do that, not following all the guidelines that the town has set, and we've had some outcomes that were not favorable, and I'm just trying to prevent that from happening again. So I don't know if it needs to be detailed better, or it needs to be like an exception. I just think that we need to make sure that that's clear before we get into a nasty hiccup like we've had in the past.
But just so that I'm clear,
When you approve this, if you approve this
SUP,
right,
it pretty much means that they cannot use that
right,
building.
that's correct,
And this came from the P&Z, correct?
yes.
Okay.
And I shared, all the changes have been shared with P&Z as well to confirm that everything they had requested was written the way they had requested. So everything you have in front of you this evening has been reviewed by Spires, their engineer, Joel and his group, P&Z, the town attorney, the town engineer. Everyone's had their eyes on this document. So everyone's had their input at this point.
But our understanding is we apply for a new CEO tomorrow, and we will be able to use the building during construction.
We can issue them a CO. You want to step in on this?
Yeah, I think the intention is we want to utilize the building for administration, mainly for, it's currently it's for 15 people, the current CO. And so, we agree, we don't want to set a precedence, we understand that concern, but we also want to utilize it as we currently have been. To one of the points that was mentioned, there is an expiration, so the end of next year, if our project does not break ground for construction, the full project, then all of that is revoked and expires at that time. So the approval, our CO that we'll be getting for the interim would just be for that time period specifically for this project under these circumstances. So I do feel like that context is unique to this project.
So the CO would run with the timeline that's specified in the SUP?
Yes.
Correct.
Any more public comments?
Yeah, I've got a question. On this map here, on the left and the right side, about halfway down, it says, or maybe a third way down the left, halfway down the right, it says 8-foot tall screening. Is that mason wall? We changed any other options?
We had looked into living screen and other things, but the feedback we were given was a masonry wall was what was the town would be most favorable towards. So rather than fight, we compromised and said if that's what the town prefers, we want to be neighbors. We're trying to do whatever we can to accommodate. Appreciate it.
I got a question now. So you mentioned 15 people. Is there currently parking for 15 cars at the current location?
There is
It would be 5 cars would be the
Now, we've been down this road before, not with you, right? Where if 15 people show up in 15 cars, one person per car, that's why I asked, is there room for 15 parking spots currently on the property? Because if you go down the road and you say, well, I'm going to have 3 people per car, and there's room to park 5 cars there, right? That's great. But where is it written that there will be a maximum of 5 cars parked at the current location for the next year?
We're going by the city code, or by the city code, and that's what we're going on. Currently, we do have more parking than for 5, and the other side is we don't have any events right now that are. It's a pickup truck. I understand the concern. We're making sure that we're abiding by the city code, and if the city tells us, hey, you need 10 parking spots, we're going to have 10 parking spots. If they tell us we need 15 or 5, we're whatever the city code
Kim,
is.
I appreciate your comments. The council's noted.
And we also would like to point out in the, we went ahead and added, for the full project, we added another, how many spots?
Yeah, it was 7 spaces to...
We added 7 extra spaces just to accommodate the separate house, even though it wasn't necessarily on the, according to the code, because we wanted to make sure that that y'all know we're doing everything we can, because I have been paying attention, and our hope also for our church is that the parking issues, that you never hear a peep from those as well. So I do understand that.
So, Mr. Mayor, a couple of points of order.
Yeah.
One, can we ask that the people that spoke state their name and their address? And also, can we acknowledge that Larry Nail is present now?
I was going to,
Okay.
yeah, I was fixing to do that as soon as they kind of touched on that, but yes, please, Cam, go ahead.
Camden Davis, address 3645 Lakewood Drive.
Thanks.
Okay.
Mark Asher, 2525 Lamont Parkway.
Leah Swanner, 2525 Lamont Parkway.
Thanks.
Okay. As far as that goes. I was going to wait until this item terminated before I get to Larry Nell, if you
Yeah, I
don't
just
mind.
want to make sure that the record reflects these.
Understood. Thank you, Larry Nell, for attending. Our councilman is here at this time. So,
Any other public comments?
yeah, any other public comments regarding DFW connection point?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Who made that motion?
David,
I'll second that.
Justin seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The public hearing is closed at this time. So at this time, I'm going to do something a little crazy now that Larry Nell came in. Larry, if you would stand, please. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me in just a second. Hang on. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Lawrence Nell,
I, Lawrence Nell,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of
the duties of the office of
Alderman, Seat 1 for the town of St. Paul
Alderman, Seat 1 for the town of St. Paul
and the state of Texas,
and the state of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve,
and will to the best of my ability preserve,
protect, and defend the Constitution
protect, and defend the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and of this state, so help me God.
and of this state, so help me God.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations on your election. This, I didn't get to show it for them. In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, this is to certify the general election held on May 3rd, that Lawrence Nell, as well as David Dryden, were duly elected alderman for the town of St. Paul. Again, your certificate and congratulations. Okay, I didn't know if you were going to leave. Okay. Regular agenda item 5.7, discussion and possible action regarding the ordinance number 283-25-05-12, the request from DFW Connection Point Church for a specific use permit on a 2.937, it needs to be corrected, acre tract located at 2601 Parker Road. Open for discussion.
So part of this is to do the, what is the hydraulic plan?
Yes. They still have to submit the grading and hydrology study. That's correct.
Can I ask a
So
question?
also a traffic study, exterior light plan, landscaping plan. So these all have to be submitted prior to construction starting?
Correct.
And Mike can speak to the progress we already have on this.
Yeah, so we're about halfway through prelim plans, so we've already sized our detention pond there at the southern corner, so we do know that it fits. Confirmed the septic area that does fit. So we're fairly confident in the plan that's presented before you that it will match what we intend to submit for a permit.
Okay, I have a question. So I'm aware that y'all brought in about 5,000 yards of dirt so far, I believe, something roughly like that, right? Which changed some of the elevations for that hydrology study. But I was under the impression, and I don't know, you could correct me if I'm wrong, your engineer I think he asked for more than that, am I correct? And then if you're gonna add another 5,000 yards, let's say, when does that hydrology study, when does the drainage studies take effect? It won't do any good to do them now if you don't have the dirt in place for that study.
Yeah, so the dirt that is on site now, we're not planning to bring in any more dirt at this point. The dirt that was provided was from the TxDOT roadway project,
Correct.
so they needed a place, and obviously we, with some quick calculations, determined we could use it for our project too, to make things flatter and more beneficial for, just for the look of the site as well. So that's how that dirt was placed. At this point, we should not be receiving any more dirt, and so we've performed a full topo survey. All of our plans will reflect, and all of the drainage analysis that we'll provide will reflect all of those conditions that are out there, and we're taking into account the proposed Parker Road improvements and the drainage. So we're making sure that we're interacting with the Parker Road plans adequately as well, following all, city and state laws as far as discharge to properties next door. So.
What guidelines are you using for like the depth and area of the pond versus how much parking lot area you're pouring and how much building area you're gonna take up?
Yeah, so the pond, the volume of the pond it's going to be moderately deep, maybe 4 or 5 feet. So pond area is based upon depth and size. So we've accounted for that volume that's required to essentially detain the site back to as if it's grass or dirt today. When you pave it, more runoff comes off, right? So the pond is there to hold that water back and discharge it at the rate that if it was grass. So there should be no negative impacts downstream. And we'll prove that out with our plans and study, so.
Okay, question. So if sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to tell you, I appreciate you being here over the last handful of months and making more visibility to the town. That speaks highly. I'm very pro-church. I think it'd be great. You'd be adding value to the community. You are asking for us to take a residential lot and permanently change it to a commercial lot. So we've got a duty to make sure that we're asking the right questions and not just kind of quickly approving something. So I do have some questions. With all the dirt that was brought in, it looks like it's 2 or 3 feet higher than it was. Is that fair?
Approximately, yeah.
Is the 8-foot-high masonry fence going to be on the higher portion or the original grade?
That's a good question. So we're more than likely going to have retaining walls on the perimeter to match the higher grade now. So the intention is to match, to put the 8-foot wall on the higher side, so we're not looking over the wall down onto someone else. So the intention is to provide it an 8-foot high.
And the detention pond, is that, you said 5 feet, is that going to be at the new ground level or?
Yeah, so it'll be bermed up along the property line. That's part of what we're trying to figure out right now with the design plans. So I think with we're talking with wall contractors and trying to figure out the most optimum way to do that. We understand there will be an 8-foot wall in that section, on top of the perimeter of the pond. So we're trying to solve that right now.
So the masonry fence or wall will be 2 to 3 feet off of your property line? Right now,
more or less, yeah. So it'll be along the property line, yes.
I guess that would depend on what kind of retaining wall they
well, right now
place.
the dirt is higher, about 2 or 3 feet off of your property line.
Mm-hmm.
And
So retaining wall will.
Yeah. We're planning to cut in retaining walls along the property line and then more than likely stack.
Oh, at the property line, and then maybe.
Yeah, where it makes sense if we can't daylight it down and create a swale. So we're trying to figure out the best way to make most of it as usable as possible.
And when you do that, I mean, there's homes that are fairly lower than your property. Any concerns from any of the adjacent homeowners on drainage or water or anything like that?
We obviously sent out the butter notices. I haven't heard anything back from any of the adjacent property owners. I did reach out to the Giovanni's over the weekend, via email, I haven't heard anything back from them either.
Are the curb cuts in the plan, is that what TxDOT has already approved?
Yes, what's shown on this plan, we have conceptually approved, which with TxDOT means we don't have the full construction plan approval. They have approved those locations. Obviously, the one that lines up with the median, that one is set right in the center. The other one is based upon their spacing.
So it looks like the left entrance will be, people can go right or left, and the
That's
right
correct.
one, people can only go right.
That's correct. It'll be access to a full median opening, yes.
And has there been any study that really shows, is that going to create a traffic hazard, especially on this turn? With visibility?
I don't know what you have done with TxDOT yet.
We, as part of the SUP and with the plans, but when we get a TxDOT official permits for those driveways, they will more than likely require us to provide some type of engineering study. We've had to do that in most municipalities around DFW.
Because there's no deceleration lanes right now planned. correct?
No, I believe, does that driveway, the first one, lines up with the red light we're gonna have for St. Paul, is that correct?
Hopefully.
So,
It does. If the red light's going to be there, we're lined up with it.
Yeah, this future St. Paul Road that terminates in the north.
my question would be, if it does, and that's the way I understand TxDOT explained it to me, so in order for you to get a red light, green light coming out of your parking lot, is that something you've discussed, the expenditure on that red light to give you that direction?
Yeah, so I think that's part of the engineering study is typically, they call it a proportionality. So for our project, our peak is going to be a Sunday, right? A lot of the peak for most of this area is probably 5 p.m. on a...
I'm going to interrupt and say you've got a school that you're planning, so that's not really accurate.
Sure, the preschool aspect, yes. So, but again, the study that we are intending to provide should provide all the detail counts for our anticipated times throughout the week. And we'll plan to share that and provide that with our permit drawings, so.
But right now, there's not a deceleration lane planned or a turn lane planned.
Once they complete the traffic impact analysis, which I'm certainly going to do for TxDOT and we'll see as well, does it warrant a deceleration? And that's what we're determining. So they have to do the TIA, which will dictate what improvements they need to make.
Because, I mean, we already have issues in this, in that general area right now with visibility and lack of being able to get out onto the road. Just
Were there conversations with TxDOT previously, because you currently have an SUP on the property? So did you have conversations previously with TxDOT?
Yeah, we coordinated with TxDOT
Okay.
on our access,
Okay.
yes. Again, we're waiting for, now we're waiting for our SUP approval to kind of go to the next step to get the actual driveway permit drawings initiated and submitted with TxDOT.
David, typically, the next step after you approve the zoning, whether it's for this project or any other project, all the different plans are outlined in the SUP. The TIA will dictate what improvements they'll have to implement.
Okay. I noticed the dumpster plan is now right next to a house. Any concerns over noise, odor, trash, excess trash blowing into a backyard of a new house that's just being built?
Well, they're going to have a screening wall around it. So hopefully they're going to maintain the property.
But the homeowner that's next door has not expressed any concerns over this.
No, but so you're going to have a retaining wall around the dumpster itself, and you have a masonry wall around the property. So if any debris was coming out of the dumpster side, I'm assuming it's going to stay on the church's property.
And then where I see the septic, it's going to be incredibly close to a residence. And you're uphill significantly from that house. Has that homeowner expressed any concerns over overspray or odor or anything like that?
I have not heard anything from them.
Yeah, it'll be a below ground system. We will actually be capturing all the drainage in that area, so there shouldn't be surface flowing directly onto their property as currently planned.
Since you added all the dirt, raised the property up, Are you trying at any point to take, because that property drained from Parker Road all the way to the rear. So now, are you changing that where you're gonna take 50% of the water and push it on Parker Road, the new Parker Roads or culverts?
No, absolutely not. So all of it is maintaining the existing pattern. So Parker is still higher than us. So we're
Okay.
draining towards the pond. That's why the pond is located where it is.
Is the detention pond planned from the onset of the project?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've always known that we're gonna have to have detention in this situation, yeah.
Or do you mean the outset, meaning putting in sooner than later?
Yeah, at the start of the project, at the start of construction.
I mean, from a construction standpoint, it does get dug and put in probably with the retaining walls, and it'll be one of the first things construction-wise to go in, possibly, yeah.
So, and I don't mean to be nosy, but I've asked other churches this, so I need to ask you. What's the estimated cost of the project, you know?
We are, I would say 2.2 total is where we're estimating it to be.
Is any, again, just asking, any anticipated financing for the facility?
Will we be getting a loan for it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So my concern is if the project gets partially through, because we're talking a while for this SUP, if part of the project gets done and either costs go up, funding isn't enough, we've got a partially commercial now property on a residential lot. And so how secure are you with financing and the price increases or delays and stuff like that?
So we will, a lot of that is pending the SUP, and so as we move forward, we've got our loan, our lender, we're ready to move forward with them. We have not moved forward with them, and so when we're approved for the SUP, we'll do our final analysis. And being conservative, I want that to avoid that more than y'all want to avoid that, and so we will be very conservative in our estimates of that and do everything we can to make sure that that does not happen. But the next step for us will be secure the lending and to have all of the subcontractors qualified and count the cost. And so we should know that pretty soon, and I can tell you we won't move forward to if it's close enough.
What are your expansion plans when you outgrow your auditorium?
God willing, first of all, that our goal right now, I do want to be clear, is we're not trying to be a church growth. That's not the vision of our church, and I know that's probably anyone who's ever been to a church has trouble believing that, but that's not our vision of this. Is let's just get as big as we want. We do have the design in a way that we can expand the building on both sides. And then we would of course have to also come back and get more parking for that, so that there wouldn't be any complications if we do that. The house would probably go away if we were to ever get to that. But at this point, it's other than designing the building with space on the sides, that's not even in our mindset right now. We've been around for 15 years and we're 150 people, and so it's not as if we're on some fast track in our mind. We've got 2 staff members that have been on since we started, me and Mr. Williams over there, and so I mean, we're not anticipating that being in the near future for us, at least.
So, and I just see construction timeline is up to December of 2029, and a lot can happen between now and then, so.
Yeah, and our hope, by the way, is, I would say, to be breaking ground in 2025 and be finishing this in 2026.
Thank you.
I would love to have Easter there.
And how tall is the main building going to be?
30 feet, I believe.
Yeah, 30
It's,
feet.
there's a cap that we were, I think it's 30 feet, but we were trying, there was a reason we kept it under what we kept it.
Okay. And then what's the lighting situation on the building? Is that, or is light going to be
Exterior.
shining down on the neighbors there?
No, we do have a lighting
There's a
study.
photometric study that's required. for
Yes.
this.
And we've,
Yeah, we've completed a preliminary one, so we're conscious of, the idea is to keep it bright enough to keep it safe, but on the perimeter to keep it not like we're shining on the neighbors, and I think, that's our intention.
If complaints come on, like after building, would you be open to installing light shields after the fact?
I'm going to be open to being favorable, a good neighbor, so.
Yeah, in 21, I looked, it does specifically state that a photometric study is going to be required.
Okay.
So that was a big thing for the last SUP that
Yeah.
passed.
So my concern is that for other churches that have come to us that want to use land, we've required before we approved the SUP to have a grading and drainage study done, if not other studies, prior to the SUP being issued. So I think that probably need to be consistent on that. Not that this is not a decent plan and not that anything we're seeing here tonight raises undue concern, but that was what we asked before.
What we saw before was
Yeah.
just a preliminary site plan without really any details in that request. This is much more thorough in P&Z. I got to commend P&Z, did a much better job this time. We have 20-something items of very specific requirements that we had not seen from P&Z before. So this is much more thorough. than
Yes,
most.
that's true. That's true. But still concerned of the situation that we have where the drainage is the biggest concern we have in some of these lots, especially.
If well, my understanding is that it still has to be done before, we still will have it to. The main thing for us is the risk of, well, first of all, we can't get a loan without an SUP. We can't, and for us to be spending parishioners' money when we're not even guaranteed that's our main concern of, we want to make sure we're being wise with the money of our members.
Okay. So these have to be approved. How are these plans approved prior to construction?
Typically, the plans are approved by staff and your technical consultants, the town engineer.
So none of this,
There is
none of
one.
this comes back through P&Z or council?
Typically, they do not, but again, that is your decision if you want some of these plans to come back before you. The only item that was going to come back before council that's on the list would have been the maintenance agreement regarding the pond. But typically, at this point, if you approve the SUP, all these other plans would be reviewed by your technical staff based upon town codes. But again, that's left up to you.
Yeah, and maybe the way that we handle that is to ask for the grading and drainage plans to come back for review.
I think with what we're seeing drainage-wise in the town, that would be one, that's a biggie.
Okay.
As far as that goes, to stay on top of the drainage, so we don't complicate it.
Yeah,
I agree
potentially
with Robert.
the traffic impact study as well. The rest I don't think are as critical, although you could argue they're all somewhat critical. But those are the two that are related to safety, and that's really the main thing.
So would that be, Mike?
Yeah, I guess the question is, would that be more for your notice, or would that be for reapproval? I guess the thought is if we're meeting all the requirements, that introduces, maybe the lender's like, well, you have to get another approval now, so there's concern.
I think what council would like to hear and move forward with the SUP with the understanding that when you file the grading and drainage plan, they'll be reviewed by the technical staff that the town has, and their findings would be brought before council to see if they have any concerns.
So
So-
something conditional?
Right. Conditional that, and we wouldn't move forward without all these different studies meeting your town codes.
I mean, that would, the only thing it would be, 23 says prior to construction at the beginning, is the way I understand it. So that's the only thing that the SUP would still be granted, it's just it would be the gating factor on construction.
Before we break ground.
Yeah.
Again,
I'm trying to be consistent with you compared to others that we've had.
Yeah, the main thing for us is, for us to break ground and begin getting our permits and all that, we want to make sure we have the SUP. And so that, but we also want to make sure that we want these studies too. We don't want mad, we don't want neighbors that are mad. And so, Mike, do you have any?
No, I think to Scott's point, it's, when we submit the permit plans and everything that I assume KSA
Correct.
will review, that, you can handle that and bring that before
Council.
However you think would be best.
Okay.
So that would be the two, the grading,
And the traffic impact.
grading and drainage and the traffic impact, yeah. But other than that, I do appreciate what P&Z's done and the diligence around it and the attendance.
In the pond maintenance agreement, when do you expect that? Because if that's going to be something that's going to be early on in the
When
process.
would you be comfortable, Mike, for, how far along are you with the
Typically,
design?
the pond maintenance agreement comes before the civil plan approval
Okay.
or the early grade, if you guys do an early grading permit, which this is small enough. We also, just to clarify, we are plating the property, so I think on the plat, we would dedicate any easements for the
Right.
pond. So probably near the end, once we've substantially cleared all the comments from KSA, would be the appropriate time to submit that maintenance
Okay.
agreement.
More questions? Discussion?
Here, I've got a comment, question. On the administrative building, the existing building, the house, I'm not sure it was clear to me if the intention of the applicant is to use that while construction on the rest of the lot is going on. Because there's an interpretation of the ordinance that, the way it's written now, that the lot would need to be finished out before they could occupy and use that building. If the intent, and it could, either way is fine, legally, but if the intent or the council's desire is to allow the use of that building as soon as he can get a CO, then I think you need to put language in your motion that says that you're directing that the ordinance be revised as necessary to allow the building to be occupied before the lot is finished. As soon as
Compliant with the CO and
as soon as the CO can be issued.
And Scott, just to clarify, we've had no comments from neighbors, adjacent property owners, positive, negative, anything?
No objections? Nothing in
Nothing,
favor?
nothing in favor, but nothing against.
Right.
Okay, so the process would be SUP gets approved, and then we do all these studies, assume those go well, and then they start breaking ground? Is that the order of events?
Two of the studies would come back for council, the traffic impact analysis along with grading and drainage for
Okay,
your review as well.
okay.
Would we could pull permits and begin the process before that or after that? I'm just
Well, I
asking
mean,
for
the grading and drainage obviously would have to come pretty quick, because that's the first thing you're gonna do. So once they submit the grading and drainage with your civil plans, we'll send those to KSA for review. Once we have clean plans that we can submit to council for your review, then we'll bring them before council. But really, that's gonna be your first step, correct, Mike?
Yeah.
Grading and drainage, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly, and our intention is to
Right.
meet all of the codes, so
Right.
again, I know it's a sensitive subject, that's
Right.
probably the reason it's coming back
Right.
for council, so.
And then the traffic impact analysis, have you started that already, or?
No, that's something that obviously, that's a bigger spend item, so we're
Okay.
waiting for this meeting confirmation, so.
Okay. So you'll be able to move on both those documents relatively quickly, it sounds like? or-
Yeah, our intention is, if Joel says go tomorrow, then I'll
Okay.
get back to my computer.
So I say that'd be the next step. Three things that we owe you still: the traffic impact analysis, the grading and drainage, and the agreement for maintaining the pond.
Any input, Larry? Any questions? Okay.
Yeah, we just need to make sure that the motion includes the caveats for the use of the building.
That they'll be able to use the existing building for administrative purposes for the church and preschool, not to exceed occupancy of 15.
We're going to stay with the 15, correct?
Yes.
And then what about the order of construction of the wall? Do we want to discuss that? Do we have any qualms with that?
I would assume that would come towards the end. Masonry wall with all the construction, you wouldn't want to do that
Yeah,
there.
exactly. It kind of goes at the end
Right.
because we don't want to
Right.
have a regrading situation and we have to rip it all back
Right.
out, so.
Okay. Any more questions?
Is there any kind of temporary fencing or anything like that?
Right now, we have a silt fence that was redone.
I'm talking about during construction. If you're not going to have the privacy fence up, you got construction debris and stuff potentially impacting homeowners.
Sure. We haven't really talked about that yet because we haven't gotten that far. It's a good thought. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. Yeah, I think we want to make it a secure construction site. So we might have fencing, we may not. I'm not sure yet.
Just temporary chain link, something like that.
Something to hold in debris.
Okay.
Nothing else from you?
Okay. Any more discussion?
Do we want to hold it on that, to have some kind of fencing before they start?
What is the requirement? It's not just a silt fence, is it, for construction sites? There's
Well,
the
silt
orange
fence.
barrier
You could put
fencing.
orange construction fence around the side if you're concerned about debris blowing off the lot. But I would assume your contractor is going to be responsible for keeping the lot clean. You're going to have the construction bins, that's typically how they hold them accountable.
Okay.
So what happens if they don't build a masonry fence? Do they
Then
not get
they're
their
in
CO?
violation of SUP.
Okay. And then what happens?
Then the SUP is revoked.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to happen though.
Well, I'm not hearing the spirit of it. That's either.
Yeah, that's one we do in a minute, so. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Oh, I guess I'll try to do the motion. Sounds like there's a lot to put in it. But I'd like to motion that,
To approve the ordinance.
yeah, that we approve the ordinance number 283-25-05-12 with the caveat that we allow for the use of the office existing building up to 15 people, and that we request that the grading and drainage plan, traffic impact study, and pond maintenance agreement come before the council.
So,
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, thanks for
Appreciate your time very
working
much.
Thank you.
You did good. That was a little difficult.
So does somebody else want to?
Just to clarify, do those studies go through P and Z and then back to us, or are they just
I
come
just
straight
bring
to
them
us?
back to council.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
You bet, thank you very much. Make sure you tell P and Z for us that, or you, Lynn, that they did a good job. We
Yes, sir.
do appreciate it very much.
Yeah, best out there.
Very much. Eric's here too, that's right. Sorry about that, Eric. Moving on to 5.8, discussion regarding a proposal from KSA to develop a map illustrating the town's corporate limits and ETJ property. So, Council, do you have discussion points on this?
I think we certainly should do it. Yes, we've tried attempts at things before, and maybe, it sounds like a lot of things weren't official, and who knows what is official, and if you really dig into some of the ordinances about Farmer Smith's lot, things like that.
It's very difficult
Yeah.
to understand, there's no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Yeah, ordinance number 1, I think literally names people instead of places.
So,
So we definitely need to do this, and almost to the point that I almost don't care what it costs. Obviously, we have to be responsible with budget, but it is very important to have done, I believe.
I'm under the impression we have conflicting maps.
So your town boundary map in 1986 aligns pretty closely to the one that was adopted in 2005, which in my opinion is probably by far one of the best maps the town had ever prepared. It took all your ordinances and outlined for each ordinance what part of the town was annexed in, and included your boundary maps with Lucas, Wiley. It's a very good map. It's a typical map that you would see in every city. And that's really what started to throw up the red flags, because the maps that were prepared by KSA, there were obvious properties that were left out that were shown on two other maps that were prepared by engineers in 1986 and 2005.
So we're considering rehiring KSA that produced a map that was not good?
Well, my understanding, and I can just tell you what KSA has shared with me. The direction they were given was to create shape files, and the map that was prepared in 2005 is what was used as a base to show what property should be removed from the town. So KSA produced that map based upon direction from the town. It wasn't based upon legal instruments.
Okay, so it wasn't engineering malpractice in your opinion, it was direction or information given to them that was incorrect?
If I was an engineer, I would have asked about it though.
That's that's my concern is, you know.
Going back to the same company
Do we want to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah.
GIS, we need to get somebody that does GIS, it sounds like to me.
Well, that's something
does
you
KSA
brought up
really-
early on when you started looking at the maps, where you were kind of questioning or hesitant using KSA if they weren't set up for this particular item.
Well, Clark and I had this conversation. We thought we...
No strong opinion either way.
So, I will tell you, KSA has worked with the town for a number of years. KSA has been purchased by Pape Dawson, which is a larger engineering firm. So obviously their GIS technical skills are more than what they were in 2021. If there's anything that comes back that's different from 2005 or 1986, I'm almost hesitant to say this, I would say you at least focus on that area and not a whole map, and see what that difference may be.
Right.
What that difference could be possibly. Because you have two maps now that were developed by two different engineering firms, and one in 1986, one in 2005. They're pretty close, identical. The one that was developed in 2021 is the only one that is a
And
lot.
what was the purpose for the map that was done in 2021?
Well,
Zoning, wasn't it?
No, if you read the proposal that was signed by staff and the mayor at the time, it was to develop another,
I mean, was it a council dictated project?
I don't know, I'm not certain if it was.
Yeah, we don't have-
I can tell you the map that was approved by council that KSA had prepared was a zoning map. But if you recall, we weren't certain if all appropriate procedures had been followed at that time. We had this discussion in December.
So there could have been ordinances that were passed that didn't get reflected on the map.
There were a lot of questions around the zoning map and its legality as far as how it applied, and I'll leave it at that for right now. because-
Do we know on the 2005 map, was it ever adopted?
Yes, it was.
Okay, in '05, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
But the 2021
was not.
was not.
That's correct. It was adopted as a zoning map.
That's
But
what
here-
I,
but
that's
here's-
what I remember as well,
Right,
just
right.
tell you, because I was here,
Right.
just if you don't mind, I do remember us adopting it as a zoning map. I don't remember it replacing an official boundary.
Right. And here's a problem with the KSA maps. They're the prominent maps that were shown on your website. They're the maps that we look at as staff that we thought were gospel. We were not aware of the map that was prepared in 2005. When we came across that map, then that's when we started noticing a lot of discrepancies and started to question what was taking place.
So do you have any idea how many lots or parcels of land are going to be affected by. Again, you're doing the right thing by putting all the ordinances out there and letting KSA or whoever it might be doing. If you take that compared with the zoning map from 21 versus a boundary map, is it going to change and affect how many pieces of land?
Right now, somewhere around 20, 22.
Okay, and have those homeowners been contacted?
We haven't, I haven't been given authorization. This is the first time we've talked about it this
Because
before.
we really don't know yet.
Right.
No, and I mean, it's something that needs to happen for
Well,
sure.
there are a couple property owners who are aware of it. Like, for instance, Mr. Massey. When he purchased land off of St. Paul, he purchased the property in 2022, I believe. He was under the impression the property was not in the corporate limits. But if you go back and when you look at the map that was prepared in 2025, Mr. Massey's property
You mean
was actually...
2005?
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
2005.
In 2005, Mr. Massey's property was actually part of the original incorporation of the town. And when I asked the Collins Central Appraisal District about the property as well, they had made mistakes on not recognizing the property being in the town, but they, for some reason, discovered it after the property was sold, and they started charging the property owner, being Mr. Massey, the town of St. Paul property taxes. No, I don't know what triggered that, but they realized, hey, this property's in the town, and that may have triggered once they actually had to sell. So that even the Collins Central Appraisal District recognized the mistake.
Oh, yeah, I think I caught the one up
Right,
here,
right.
so they make some errors, there's no doubt about it.
Part of it, just so y'all know, part of the reason that this former Hofstadler land, that I did not vote to allow for it to be part of inspiration, because there's portions of it that they still show as part of St. Paul today. You know, and at the time they showed it at least, and I haven't looked today, I mean, I shouldn't say today, recently, I'll put it that way, recently. But that day that we were voting on that, I was the only one that voted against it, and I was being browbeat because you can't vote against it. Well, I can, because I had reasonable doubt that that land was part of it was still in St. Paul.
And again, I think with your ordinances, you're gonna take a KSA or what engineering company to look at each ordinance, meets and bounds, come up with the details, because I still have that question on the Lakeview property, because GIS, the appraisal district says it's been that way since inception in 1971, period. So the question is, do we have anything, you want KSA or whoever to really dig into that and don't rely solely on the appraisal district,
Right.
but not discount it as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to, work with the appraisal district, but they would not be the one guiding my town map. I can assure you that.
It would be one of them, I would think.
Yeah, it's one source.
Because right now you have two maps that reflect those properties being in the town. One in 1986 and one in 2005. All of a sudden, in 2021, we show them out of the town.
So 5A says discussion, it doesn't say action. Is there action that you're asking us to take?
Well, I need council to authorize the expenditure, yes.
Okay.
I put the discussion only on there because, again, I was looking at, I went to the appraisal district and I found some discrepancies and I wanted to be able to discuss with you and then get that out to the council to be able to say, well, again, Eric Goers is here, he lives on Lake, I call it the Golden property. And GIS up there says it's been that way since 1971. And I haven't had time to sit down with you and say, do you know something else, like it's supposed to only be in town, because Bill King, the gentleman that spoke earlier, he looked at some records and told me his property actually should be in the town. So everybody's, I think, wanting the truth. The question is, before we just go and do it, we want to make sure, A, that we're all on the same page, that we know 22 properties are going to change. How
Well,
Potentially.
We don't know yet.
potentially
We
may
don't know.
change.
Yes.
How big are those properties? What kind of change is it? Is it something we need to take into consideration to discuss with those homeowners? I don't want.
To Mr. King's point, it may not be a big financial change to the town, but we need it to be accurate.
Correct.
It's not so much, you gotta understand, it's also zoning regulations. It's not just about the financial part of it. And how do we communicate with individuals who come into the town hall, and we're not certain if a piece of property is in the town or not?
So 11,000 is what is being quoted by KSA.
I think it's close to 12,
12,000,
or something.
11,800. And you're comfortable that they would be able to produce accurately what we're needing?
I think was it not stated that was the baseline and there could be additionals on top of that 11.8?
No, I mean, Abiel was comfortable with the quote, 11.8, but, you know, if something comes along while they're doing, preparing the map, it may change the cost. That's significant, we'll bring it back, I don't anticipate that.
And the reason the zoning matters is if this affects, I'm gonna pick on you, Eric. So the properties along Lakeview, we have some properties that have businesses on the county side. So if those properties become the towns, they're gonna be in violation instantly of our zoning ordinances. That's why we have to make sure this is right.
Potentially. And we would have to work with them, obviously. I mean, they're already there, so we would have to work with them.
Right.
Well, I agree with Robert that we have to have clear maps.
Absolutely. Clear maps is an agreement.
I don't see why we shouldn't do this.
I'd like to have the opportunity. Do you have any comment on the Lakeview properties? I sent you 2 emails that the county appraisal district had sent. One of them was on the Lakeview properties, saying it's been that way since '71. And I think the other one was on, it was actually given an answer by Bob, and they looped me in on the response, saying the 0.9 acres was exempt. It was Catholic church property, and it was exempt. And he went through a long meets and bounds description on that. And again, this is the GIS director. This isn't just a tax guy. He didn't owe me or Bob London anything. He
So the
just gave a
properties on
description.
Lakeview, the properties on Lakeview, they're shown on 2 other town maps. And that's really what has led to wanting to create a map. There's discrepancies between 2 maps that have been prepared by 2 different engineering firms that are accurate, pretty close to one another. Then all of a sudden you have maps that are prepared in 2021 that were not prepared based upon legal instruments, but just changing the map based upon what.
And can I get clarification? With what we're talking about with maps, this is just clinical to do maps. This is not any kind of, I mean, we had an accusation earlier in citizen comments that it's to pursue some kind of a personal, this is nothing personal or personal agendas or anything like that, correct? This is just.
Yeah, it should be just going through the records and different sources to try to come to
I just want to be on the record.
I mean, at this
We're wanting
point,
objective new maps that are
Yeah,
accurate.
I think that
It has
there
nothing
was-
to do with any individual.
unfortunately, people left, but I think there was agreement that that was not an official map. I think we heard multiple times it was a draft, and that it ended up being a zoning map, and so it wasn't an official, boundaries map. So we're just trying to update our boundaries map, which, to what we can tell, the last one was in 2005, and it needs to be updated.
But this is not any attack against anybody. This isn't a personal issue with anybody. This is just getting us accurate maps for the town.
I think so.
So the map that was prepared by KSA, and Clark can speak to this possibly, you have a new map that's served as your town map since 2021, and it shows different boundaries. Is that your new boundary map? It's been there since 2021.
If it is, it would have been submitted to Collin County as the official boundary map.
But it was never adopted by council other than as a zoning map.
Right. But I don't know what was submitted to the county.
So if someone had forwarded the KSA map to the county, even though council did not authorize it as a town boundary map, would it still stand?
Well, it would, the county might have presumed that the council did act on it. And if that were the case, and this is, speculation, I can't say for sure. If that were the case, that might have prompted the appraisal district to exclude or include properties that may have been an error. I just don't know.
Errors happen.
Yeah.
So
Errors happen.
So that's, I
I
just
agree
want to make sure we're not
Councilman Driver.
doing this in any direction to try to accuse anybody of anything at this
I
point.
think
We're just wanting to have updated maps.
Yeah, I think from a legal standpoint, you just gotta get your map right.
Okay. So,
Well, the map that staff is currently following is the one that was adopted in 2005. So that's the only town banner map that we have of record that was officially approved by council.
so is this a motion that we need or just?
There's no motion.
Okay, so we just need to,
In that
Give
2005
you
map,
authority to-
we have documentation that backs it up. It was adopted in 05,
It's
correct?
an ordinance.
Okay.
168.
168 ordinance.
168?
so you just need an approval from council to engage with KSA?
Yes.
Well, yeah, any kind of budget changes.
And then it would be
If we need
adopted
to
after
bring
it's
a-
complete, correct?
If we need to bring a budget amendment before us because of some kind of budget issue, you just, feel free to do that, right?
I have no objections.
Me neither. Do the right thing.
You can act on it tonight if you want to.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was gonna ask, is anything that's on the agenda, we can act on, right?
Anything that's listed on the agenda, you can take action.
Come up multiple times in the past in my tenure on the council is being hamstrung by some item saying it's only for discussion, and my understanding from the state law is that it's on the agenda, we can act on it.
Yes, and it says it in the agenda as well, at the bottom of the notes, that you can vote or act upon each item listed in the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we allow the town to engage with KSA for the map.
I second.
For an official boundary map.
For an official.
Are we
map.
doing
Official boundary.
3 or just one map?
One for now.
Okay, one for now. Start again, I apologize.
Make a motion that we engage with KSA to develop a new boundaries, official boundaries map.
Okay.
I second.
Do you want to have a second? Okay, Larry Neal's the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Did you vote a nay on Justin?
Okay.
Five point nine, discussion of possible action to begin developing a clear and consistent process for receiving and managing public information requests and complaints. Whose item was this?
Well, I think this is something we had on the last agenda.
I think we mentioned it, yeah.
Right, and I just added it back on, so it wasn't certain if it was something you could come back and readdress. But this been
Well,
something-
then give us an update, because we discussed
Right.
allowing you to
Right.
create a new policy. So-
Right. Well, we're gonna talk about it in executive session as well, so we'll just wait until we get into executive session to discuss it.
So there doesn't need to be any
No.
discussion of 5.9?
Not at this point.
Okay. So, 5-10, discussion possible action regarding the installation of no parking indicators and signage along Lakeway Drive.
So where are we on the painting and the signage so far?
I've reached out to 4 different companies for bids, quotes. I have 2 back so far, one from Simplify, it's right around $10,000, and the other one
Is that just for painting or is it for?
painting and the signs. So everything we had outlined or everything that was outlined in the recommendations from KSA, I shared with Simplify, Wolfpack, Eagle Barricade, another striping company, THM, who I am waiting on a 3rd bid. Once I have 3 bids, I'll bring a recommendation before council.
Okay, we had a little bit of an issue last week, I guess, on the signs. There's a couple of homeowners that originally when we did the petition, they agreed. Now they are in disagreement. I believe Shane is here. And basically, I talked to Shane last week, And I didn't know if it came up because of the take memorandum basically put the sign in the dead middle of their front yard versus on the side of their property. And so that was, I think, what the question was, more than anything, and I don't know.
I remember it being supposed to be on the property line in there.
I think it was right in the middle, was it not?
Yeah, it was in the middle,
Yeah.
and they were painting our curb. That is not acceptable.
So, again, so there's
Yeah.
been some citizens that have, a couple of them, that have since come back with some complaints.
There was a better way to do the signs. We've been emailing back and forth, I believe, with you about the way the different signs that we could use on the other side of the street that wouldn't affect our neighborhood, wouldn't affect our homes.
Right.
That makes more sense because
Right.
KSA's, I think the people that did the
That's correct.
engineer,
Correct.
they just kind of blocked them there or wherever they don't work. And I spoke to my neighbors, they're sick today or they'd be here too, but they're not interested in having that painted curb or a sign in their yard.
I think where we run into a little bit of issues there is because the property goes to the curb. It can, on the signage part. So, is there any input you have on that?
I did reach out to Abiel regarding Shane, I believe your wife.
Yeah, Christie Hayden.
Christie had emailed me as well. They don't recommend the specific signs that you had referenced because it was going to require more than just one sign as far as back to back. And then for some reason, Abiel also had some concerns about the enforcement of those specific type of signs. However, he did mention that there is some flexibility in moving them on the property, which we could work with the property owner as well.
We have landscaping, we have spent a lot of money in this house. And there is no way I want a metal pole sign in front of that. That is going to be a huge issue for me.
So even if it's on the property line, it's not in front of your house?
Over by the telephone pole or something like that?
There is no telephone poles by us. It's on the, well, it's over on the, there is a telephone pole in between the neighbors.
Right.
No, we don't feel we should be, we kind of feel like we're having to carry the bag for what's going on down the street. I mean, there's other things going on down the street, and y'all know, that needs to be rectified before you start painting our curbs and putting signs in our yard. If you fix down the street, all of that, you don't waste your money. Because it's really going to be a waste of money if they can't do what they're doing. We all know that I just heard this church, and you do the same thing to them, you won't hear from us again. That's really what we're feeling on this. And it's not because who they are or what they are, or it's because of the guy who owns the buildings doesn't do the right thing. Who occupies it is irrelevant to me, or to all of us really. But it is the way they're allowed to operate in that building is what the problem is. And that's what we're all, I mean, and I don't feel like I should have a pole or a painted curb or anything. I live out here for a reason. I can live anywhere I want. So,
We can't stop people from parking on the road without having some kind of ordinance.
And that's the problem.
a simple sign from here to there is to stop, it would stop that. We're not saying, but we're going overkill on it. We've cut the numbers off, cut the numbers down there, and it's not been as bad. On Fridays, it's still crazy at 2:30.
But the intent is for that property to be released to another house of worship. So the problem probably won't be going away, just because the current tenant's moving.
Well, if they can qualify for the parking and all of that, I don't see the fight. But we all know, we've all looked at it enough times that you know they're not going to qualify for that. And there's no way they qualify. You know, I mean, that's a simple, this guy right here just got grilled, basically. And what you do for one, you got to do for another, or that's a problem. So there is no way they have enough land for a parking lot to cover a church down there.
That might be is it something where, is it an all-in-one paint and signs, or is it a sign approach to see if that has an effect? Then we could go back to a paint approach where we're not dropping 10 grand off the bunch and see if we have the same effect. That's,
Go with the signs, install the sign first and then.
I'm just saying, is that an option? We don't have to do,
Or could a particular homeowner opt out of a sign and or paint in front of their house?
possibility.
Because we've
That's
had-
my worry for you
we-
because you're so
We've
close.
had significant amounts of council time on this where we've had homeowners tell us they would be okay with no parking.
Yeah.
So we went down a particular direction because we had a pretty consistent
Right.
in uniform
Right.
response that they would be okay with us putting no parking.
I guess that's an approach we could take, is,
I
ask
get it,
each
I
one
don't, I
of the
mean, if a homeowner doesn't want it in front of his house,
I get that too.
yeah, let's not do it, but if the rest of the street, the consensus is they do want it.
Cam Davis, you live on that street.
I do, and I had responded to the email that Scott sent out. You know, where the signs were initially suggested to be put, would have put signs in front of people's homes. And I don't agree with that. At a bare minimum, they need to be on lot boundaries.
Right.
At a bare minimum.
Sure.
Now, whether it's
Understood.
required on each side of the lot, what the state requirement is for parking, I didn't research that. But I'm with Shane, I don't want a sign right in front of my house. I spent $10,000 on landscaping. Why do I want to look out my front window and see a sign in front of my house?
Right, and that's why I took that as it was just the spirit of the technical memorandum.
Right.
Not, that sign has to be located. I didn't see any measurements that said it had to be 26 feet in front of your driveway.
So of y'all did mention while I was standing here that was the case, that was just, we put them there and they can be optimized for the situation.
Okay,
Specifically talking about placing them directly in front of people's houses. 'Cause
so that is a possibility.
Yeah, and that came up
That's what I
directly
remember.
in this conversation.
But if somebody on the street would prefer to not have
Sign.
parking in front of their house,
Yeah.
I would think,
why wouldn't we want to comply with that?
But on the telephone pole, we all share a pole on that street. I mean, there's a pole every so often, but on the poles, there's only 4 people that incur this problem. It's my neighbor, me, my other neighbor, and then the one on the corner gets the worst of it. But they're facing 13 or 24.
Well, if we have flexibility with where the signs go, can Scott not work with the homeowners to come up with acceptable locations?
So we have spent a lot of time on this, but I think what we need to do at this point is we'll reach out to each property owner, see if they have a preference. I do know the study was based upon side triangles, so I would assume that, those signs have to be in certain areas in order to meet those side visibility triangles, because that's really what was the basis of the study. I think the next step is that we need to reach out to each one of the property owners along Lakeway and see what they're willing to accept. And
just FYI for the public too, and I'm sorry, Scott. Scott reached out to the bus barn, I believe, and they have basically supported doing something to aid the school buses, the children on those buses, a safety concern. And so we're all on the same page, trust me, us and the citizens, we're all on the same page.
And this is all about safety.
Yeah, that's
the main
exactly
thing
what it's about.
That's the main thing that we can do on this situation.
We're trying to help y'all and help everybody.
We can't
along
just,
the
Couldn't you
way.
stop at that first house that's facing, they have a new black fence that runs 2.5 acres, goes all the way to my neighbor. Stop there. There's no reason that puts somebody having to walk so far to that place, whoever that's there. That's a long walk from just from my neighbor to the
But we've
corner.
received pictures and videos that they do.
Oh, I've seen them, yeah, on down to cams. But if you're taking out a big chunk and you stop them from having a church there for 500 people that's only allowed 20 people in that place, this goes away very quickly. I mean, we've spent a lot of money on this, and y'all's time. I can't tell you how many times I've been here. But the thing is this is very simple. You just do not let a church move into some place that allows 20 people. You know they're having 400 people in there. I've countered them once. I mean, that's just simple. I do businesses all the time. We get TCOs and COs all the time. If you get caught over the limit, you're out. You don't get it, you know, and that's what I'm saying is that that's what we should do here for everyone. And it's not, I'm not picking on a genre, or I want to make that very clear. This is not centering a group of people out. It is a business owner that's doing the wrong thing.
There's attorneys from both sides working on the parking issue. Right now, we have a safety issue of the street. And so all of this was done because of the safety concerns of the street. The whole CO, the owner, the tenant, all of that, totally another issue that is.
Yeah, it's another separate,
that is being addressed.
Okay.
Right now, the street issue was all about safety because concerns and videos of school buses and trucks and children running out in front of vehicles because they can't be seen. And so it was all to try to prevent harm on that street. So the whole street issue is not because of a particular tenant, it's for safety.
Period.
And that's what makes sense of having from here to the corner, no parking, period. And leave it at that and see what that gets us.
Well, again,
with
that
that said-
goes with the technical memorandum.
But with that said, if a particular homeowner doesn't want a sign, let's not put a sign in front of the yard. If a particular homeowner doesn't want no parking in front of their house, as long as it doesn't produce a conflict of safety, then we should be able to comply with that. So there ought to be able, we ought to have compromises to it.
So I think
I agree
the
with
next
you.
step we're going to do is reach out to each one of the property owners, see what their preference is would be. And based upon whatever the recommendation or preference is, we will probably come back to council with a final way forward. So work for you.
Because, I mean, the KSA study
You've got two
was
of them here. If
recommendations,
you want
but
to
it
get
wasn't.
help, ask one of them to canvass for you and come up with some details.
Okay.
We're a tight-knit group. We all know each other very well, so.
I mean, is that possible, or one,
Yes, sir.
one representative?
I'll reach out to
from-
Shane and his wife.
Or Shane,
Yeah.
if you're willing to do it, just
Okay.
work
Yeah.
with Scott, and that way
Okay.
we don't ever have to hear this
Okay.
again in
Okay.
council, and y'all can work it out, and everybody's happy, and
Well, you may have to, from the standpoint you approved an ordinance, that we're probably going to come back and redo that ordinance as well. So, okay.
but if you're approving it and homeowners are
Okay.
approving it,
Yeah.
I can't imagine the council not approving it.
Okay.
That'll work.
All right.
Anything else?
Any more discussion on this? So do we need to make a motion on this, or are we
No, I'm
just
just
going
going
to
to
take?
reach out to Shane and we'll start working with the neighbors in the area, like I said, figure out what the preference is and see if we need.
So do we need to table this till next
No,
month?
we've discussed it.
We discussed it.
I don't think we need any action at this
Okay.
point, Mayor.
Okay.
And Scott, would you proactively keep council informed of how it's going with
Yes, sir.
Shane and the homeowners? Thank you.
You good with that?
Yes.
Okay. 5-11, discussion regarding drainage concerns in the Vista Oaks subdivision.
I was asked to put this on the agenda after an email I think I sent out to council a week ago. A gentleman over in Vista Oaks had some concerns about, I forget which street it was.
It's Hickory and Vista Oaks.
Vista Oaks. And one of the council members had asked me, how I thought I would move forward with this specific concern. Even though it's very simple to focus on one issue at a time, we all know that drainage is a bigger problem rather than just one. And what I had shared with this particular council member, what I would like to see is that we develop a plan that looks at all of Vista Oaks, that looks at 2 or 3 options as far as how we can move forward with improvements. And once we identify 2 or 3 options, that would also include different financial mechanisms for implementing those improvements as well. Because a project of that caliber to address all the drainage improvements in Vista Oaks is going to be a significant amount of money. I would anticipate that it's probably going to be possibly a project of shared costs between the property owners and the town. And what that would look like, we don't know unless we start to put a plan together. But that's what I would recommend. I would
Because
recommend.
all of the original designs didn't account for adjacent, like Wiley property with the public storage and all
10
of
acres of concrete.
and all of that drainage.
Yeah, I mean, and not a lot of cities, I mean, I can only think of one city I've worked with that really looked far advanced as far as extra development and what that's gonna do to the floodplain and drainage. You know, you would have to look outside your corporate limits and ask a developer to do that, what future development would look like in certain areas if it's draining into that specific basin, because that would dictate what those drainage improvements would have to look like. You're way past that.
But the public storage that's not in our town, that is dumping a massive amount of water into Vista Oaks, do we have any legal recourse to help get some of this resolved? Because it's being brought upon us by another property.
Didn't Aviel say he was gonna look at the,
That's what I've been waiting for, is for Aviel.
I mean, we've seen videos, we've seen pictures, I've walked it. It's pretty clear where the water's coming from.
yeah, I think he did say that. And then Aviel, we talked about drainage once before, and he was supposed to get a hold of me, and I was gonna take him through Vista Oaks to show him a couple of places that he's not familiar with, that the neighbors gave me access to get on the property.
Because both even if it's a shared cost, the town and homeowners paying for something that is the result of another property owner's.
Illegal water dump.
Yeah, it seems.
And this was in the county, this particular project, or?
Yeah, it's ETJ. Carefree.
I'll take a stab at it, and Clark can. So obviously, there's construction taking place in the county, you know, who reviewed the plans? Was it at the county level? Did they take drainage into consideration?
Do you remember that, Robert? It seemed like there was a gap, something.
Nothing came to us.
Nothing came to us. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's the county for sure.
So that's the first
And
question.
the first thing, also, we come to them and just say, hey, this is a situation, do you want to work with us?
Right.
You know, see if we can get them just to
Right.
work with us.
But I mean,
Because they did work with us on the lighting, right? I mean,
Yes.
We certainly, a study has to be done, but I'm not necessarily sure that the town needs to be the sole bearer of the cost of
Right.
that.
Yeah, and we don't know what that's gonna look like yet until we get to that point. And that's what I was referring to, David, is that, you know, we need to look at, 2 or 3 options. As far as Vista Oaks as a whole, I think we refer to it as a no man's land, where they have a lot of drainage going towards the back. We know there's significant issues that are gonna have to be addressed there as well. But who all participates in financing those improvements, we won't know until we see what our options are. And then, yes, at that time, then we'll turn to Clark and see what.
So this item you put on here was because I sent you an email. Is that the gentleman you were talking about? That I
Yes,
kinda
sir.
gave you a little bit. Did you reach out to Aviel about that particular?
Not
homeowner?
yet. Not
Okay.
yet, no.
Okay.
So what's the process? Get a quote from, say, KSA on studying?
Yeah, yes, sitting down with KSA or another engineering firm. Whether it's, I can think of some engineering firms that,
I mean, we've got summer coming and
Right.
and possibly less water, so it might be a time
right.
to take action before the fall.
Yeah, as far as KSA, I'm not saying that they're not capable of handling that project, but there are some engineering firms that, in my opinion, it's one of their fortes. When it comes to drainage, I think Happen Associates is probably one of the better ones out there. So if we're gonna do this, I'd like to bring somebody on board, whether it's KSA or Happen Associates, that this town's gonna build a relationship with over the next 5, 10, 15 years. That would basically be your engineers that focus specifically on drainage.
So we had a drainage plan, the drainage and a road plan that we were marching down, and we were gonna update that. And to me, that's where this should go.
Well, that was my follow-on question, is that takes care of Vista Oaks, which some
Right.
people are very vested in, but the other question goes, is we've got other places with drainage problems in the town.
And I've reached out to Aviel on many of those. So.
And so, as I recall, we started marching down the priority list on that roadmap, if you will. And we did some of the high runners that need to be done. It sounds like some more need to be done. I think that we still need to get that road plan updated, the road and drainage plan updated. Because I think that's what this really is. But also, it sounds like that we need to partner with the storage area to see what they're willing to help with. Because if they can shunt some of this off somehow, maybe partner with TxDOT, perhaps this could get resolved with the construction that's going on with TxDOT, and having that flow into systems that they're already building in for that road drainage.
On the particular storage building you're talking about over there, it's the back half that's going your direction.
Okay.
It can't go
Oh,
to
okay.
the
It's
Park
not
Road.
going to the road, yeah, it's going.
It goes to no man's land and it doesn't go anywhere.
Okay.
So that is
Maybe
a problem.
retention ponds or something, I don't know if they can help in some way, because it sounds like that wasn't really factored
Yeah,
in.
Abiel was supposed to get with the county on that, take a look at the plans, I remember him saying that. He was gonna take a look to see, because they had removed some of their wall in the back that contains the water.
In drill holes.
Yeah, and so he was supposed to look at the county plans on that to see if there's anything he could do to force them to repair or help the homeowners in their efforts. And I guess you hadn't heard anything back yet.
No, sir.
Well, it's gotta be a combined effort, because any kind of resolution to this is gonna be on homeowners' properties.
Right.
So, I mean, it's gonna be a pretty big scope to try to work to.
Well, potentially, I mean, I don't know, until we engage that storage company and ask them to help us, work with us.
First find the problem, right?
Yeah, an olive branch, to them, maybe they can help us out.
We've had that discussion with them to some degree already.
Yes.
When we were walking through the lights and right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's water, we gotta put it somewhere.
Yeah.
So, that was the words I heard.
Yes.
Right, Scott?
Yes.
So,
That's what TxDOT tells me. So,
and
So do
It's been-
you know next steps then?
Yes.
What's the next?
I've
steps?
heard the drainage and street study was done before, then we talked about the Vista Oaks.
Update that plan.
So, I mean, if we want to move forward with updating the street and drainage study, that would be the first obvious approach.
well.
We talked about that
sorry,
before,
let me- Agreed. My question is the drainage study first, then the street, or is it combination? Because Vista Oaks, nothing like, well, street and drainage study, is it mutually exclusive or are they combined?
And we could have them prioritize, I don't have a problem with them prioritizing.
Think it's
just
separate.
those.
Well, I think
Well, no, it's not so much prior to Vista Oaks as much as the drainage.
I mean, the plan that we got before had both, and we worked them
Yeah.
in priority order, and some of them were
Okay.
street and some of them were drainage. And we got, I don't know, about 8 or 9 projects into it, and now it needs to be updated because there's new projects.
well, we have,
Well, when I walked it, I had a homeowner show me on it, is where a neighbor, water goes up basically to the weep holes in the foundation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that way before the public storage.
Correct.
And so it's obvious what's caused a problem. And then it's further, the video that we saw was further downstream, and so, I mean, it's a lot of water.
I want to look at the study that was done previously, look at what level of work actually went into it. Are we looking at an A quality product or a B or C? Or just rule type drainage? I don't know, so I want to see what the study looks like. Then I'd come back with a recommendation.
Are you talking about the one Abiel presented a couple of meetings ago?
Oh, I mean, it's one that we've had for years. It's one that we've had for years. I have a binder of it
Yeah,
in my house.
he kind of did a presentation on that a couple of
Okay.
meetings ago.
Okay.
It's not getting into
In
specific.
recapping his history with the town and the work that he's done. over
Yeah,
the years.
it's not getting into specific solutions for each of the projects. It's getting into priority and general cost. And then we have, over the years, been working through those because we didn't want to blow the budget and try to do them all
Yeah,
in
it's
one
just
year.
what he presented a few meetings ago was old, and that was all done
That's right.
prior to
Right. So it
this.
needs
That's
to-
right.
So it needs to be updated. I don't know, I think that in the interest of time, maybe we keep it at kind of the level it was at, and then as you hit those projects, that's when you get to detailed engineering done.
Okay.
You know, or if KSA has done a lot of that work, except for the new issue that was being brought on by the storage place, possibly for a minor cost, they can update that.
Right.
So I'll meet with KSA, based upon the previous study that was done, with the best way of moving forward as far as updating,
Right.
and bring that back to council.
also, there's a ditch over on Lakeway that engineering's been done for years. That ditch, I noticed, drove around, I took pictures when it flooded the other day. 3.5 inch rain. That ditch used to be, I'm gonna go, what, 10 feet deep? It's probably 4. We're running out of time, and it's been put off for 4 years now, and the engineering is done. So while we're working on the studies for the rest, ask Gabio about that particular engineering study that's been done on that ditch.
Okay.
Is there any other criticals we have?
I'm sorry?
Are there any other criticals we have with drainage?
Gabio talked to me at length about Lakeview. Again, with drainage, everything starts at the bottom of the hill and works its way backwards. And so TxDOT is not going to be an avenue for us to get assistance with. And so it's on us. And so we'll have to see, that's going to be a reactionary thing. We see what Parker Road does, and then at that point, we have to address it when we see what it does from Lakeview side. As far as the rest of it, drain drive, the rest of them, again, they're adding concrete to help us a little bit. They're taking some of that water off of the ends that's been holding, so everything's going to be kind of reactionary except for no man's land in the back end of your place, and then the ditch over on Lakeway that's been engineered for years. Those are probably your two best workable projects up until TxDOT Park Road goes in. Just based on level of land and water runoff.
Would you please reach out to the homeowner that sent in the video and the concern and let him know that we're working on.
Did you speak with Gabio about the email I sent you on that particular piece of property? I mean, to find out if I was correct about the driveway placement and all of that?
No, I have not.
Okay. Okay.
Done with 511?
Okay, any more to discussion?
No.
Okay. Consent agenda, item number 6. The consent agenda will be considered for approval through a single motion and includes routine items that are typically non-controversial in nature. Any item on the consent agenda may be removed for a separate discussion at the request of a council member of the town admin or a member of the public. So if you take a look at 6.1 is the approval of the regular council meeting minutes for April 14th. Then we have the financials for January, February, March, and April, which I think they'd asked you about last month.
Yes, but April
Correct.
was not included in your package.
Correct, it's not finished yet, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So remove 6.5.
So 6.5's gone.
And 6.6, the first quarter financial investment report, I think I still owe you a signature on that.
Yes, sir.
I believe. And then 6.7, consider resolution number 25-05-12, closing the town's money market account with American National Bank.
Just a second account that the town's been maintaining for several years, ever since you've had the A&B accounts open. It's really not necessary because you have tax pool investment accounts currently. I think the only reason why you had the second checking account or money market account with A&B was to put monies in that particular account that's going to be interest bearing. You don't earn a lot on that account.
It used to be interest bearing, I'm sure, but it went to practically nothing. We moved, 2 years ago, we moved a large chunk out of there over to tax pool.
Right.
And so this is just a residual, bless you, it's just a residual balance that I would agree that we're going to close that account.
That's
It's one less thing to reconcile.
right, exactly.
So do we have an idea where, what are we doing with the legal fees? Because we're over 21K, and our budget's just a little bit over 19K. Do we have an idea of the allocation for that?
How much more?
Well, I guess like why are we over budget so much?
Well, we've spent a lot of funds on 3990 and quite a bit on the Patel property. I can get a breakdown as far as how much has been spent on all the different subject matters. But Those two have a significant amount of money. PIRs are getting up there as well also.
So with the new fee structure for requests, are any fees being covered by applicants?
As for PIR,
That or for?
well, as far as building permits, we do have an administrative fee that's being added. The Giovanni's have reimbursed us for all our costs. DFW Connection, they put down a deposit of $2,500, so they're covering all their costs. As far as working with developers.
So a small portion of legal fees are being covered.
Right, so if it has anything to do with the particular development, we're being reimbursed for it, absolutely.
But not on the PR.
Not on the PIRs, for sure.
We're gonna have to go back and restructure those fees. I spoke with Mr. Overcash, or I sent him an email a week ago. We're gonna have to restructure our fees as far as open records requests.
You got a timeline, you kind of estimates?
We'll get something for Councilman Miller in your next meeting in June.
I appreciated his last email. It was very, to squash
Right.
an obnoxious PIR.
PIR. Yeah, I'd like to see I guess, allocation of like how much we're spending on 3990 and other projects as far as legal fees are concerned.
Okay.
And so, to council, I'd like to ask Mr. McCoy, when it says approval of the report, is that what we're supposed to be doing as a council, is approving it? Or are we just accepting that it's been delivered? And then two, if we are approving it, what kind of fidelity are we expected to know behind every transaction that's in here?
Approval of report.
Yeah,
Consider
6.1,
approval
for example,
financial
6.1, or I'm sorry, 6.2. 6.2, I should use that one for you.
Financial reports, quarterly investment report.
I think that's an opportunity for council to review the report. If you have any questions, if you see any irregularities or things that bother you, then you can discuss that. And if you see something, discrepancy that you just, this doesn't work, this isn't right, that needs to be fixed before we approve it.
Right.
I think that's the purpose of it.
Okay, that's the way I've always interpreted it too. It seems like that as of late, there was some fiduciary type of responsibility that to me, I'm accepting that you gave me a report and I reviewed the report. And yeah, during this time, we sit here and we can ask questions on it. I can't tell you exactly what some fee was paid for or exactly what some action was taken by an employee or a lawyer that was on this list that we paid. That's part of my concern. That's come up recently, that we're supposed to know that kind of fidelity.
I would say that if you're concerned about that, the language on the agenda could be changed to review.
Yeah, or accept. I mean, in the past, I've asked for the wording to be, prior to Scott, the wording to read accept the report, because I'm gladly will accept the report. I have a hard time saying that I can approve to the fidelity of every line item without going back and doing duplicate, triplicate.
Yeah,
five people reviewing and doing the exact same work that, staff's already done, so. Okay, thanks for that, appreciate it.
So do we want to change the word?
I would like to.
read and accept?
Yeah, read and accept, or something like that.
Or just say review.
Review it, yeah, review would be good.
Not accept, just review.
Review, yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want that for this particular, since we have 3 months worth of financials?
Yeah, if we don't mind just saying that we reviewed on the minutes, if you could say that we reviewed.
Can you just make the motion with the change in wording?
Yeah.
Any other discussion besides that?
No, I appreciate the details. Thank you for putting that together.
You want to make that
Yeah,
motion?
I'll motion that we approve the consent agenda with the removal of 6.5 and with the rewording to say that we have reviewed the financial reports that are listed at 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4. for, as
And
well as
6.6.
6.6, and accepting the rest.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, item 7 of public hearing, or 7.1, deliberate the performance and duties of the town manager and consider action.
So if it's a public hearing, we need to get feedback from the public on that?
Let's just consider action. Discussion possible, no public hearing.
Oh, okay. It says public hearing on the agenda here.
Yeah.
The whole thing's a public hearing.
Okay. All right, so yeah, I think, it really goes along the lines with our last discussion on 511, and looking at the budget and seeing that we're not doing any road maintenance. I see that we're still at 0 for that. Major projects is very low. We're definitely spending a lot on attorney fees, and I've been kind of concerned that we're spending too much time looking at things like that, getting new maps, whereas I think drainage and road maintenance is a much bigger deal. It's much more prevalent of a concern of mine, for sure. So I just want to make sure that the council is kind of on the same page as far as priorities, because you're given a lot of things to do right now, I mean, just from this meeting. So I guess, are there any things kind of holding you up from, going through with any of the planned road maintenance, for
I did
example?
reach out to WOPAC actually today. This is not the first time I've contacted them about improvements to the roads. I know there's been a phase program that the town's been doing, and so I reached out to Adam, because there's a couple things I've asked Adam for. One, I'm working with him on the Levon Parkway improvements. I asked him for a bid on Lakeway, which he's submitted already. So now I'm going to have him work with me on what's the next phase based upon what's been done for the past year or two. Whether it's seal coating certain roads or, what does that look like? Because I know there was a program in place. And we briefly talked about that about a month or 2 months ago. But I'm also going to talk to them about patching some potholes. We've had several complaints about potholes. West Shore being one area, drain. A little hesitant to do it, especially along drain if the traffic keeps going down there, but we need to do something because it sounds like there's a significant number of potholes. So when I reached out to him today, I asked him, what would those costs look like? So I'm moving on.
So I guess from your point of view, what is, you're only one person, what are your priorities on a day-to-day basis? Like tomorrow, what are you going to focus on, given that we just had this meeting?
Well, I'll go through this list and I'll look at things that I can touch on relatively quick versus things that are going to take time. So just like Shane, I'll reach out to him first thing tomorrow. We got a lot of different priorities out there. If something comes up with regarding 3990, 3990 goes to the top. It depends upon the action that comes from this governing body. That can change my priorities because I know what priorities you all have. Now that I've heard repetitively about moving forward with road improvements, that's going to be right up there with 3990, but I know 3990 is top. So if you come out of here with some sort of direction tonight for me regarding 3990, that's going to be at the very top. Does that make sense? It depends upon the direction you give me, where my priorities are going to fall.
Okay. I guess as far as the past, we'll say a month, for example, what's your allocation on how much do you spend on, kind of working with, construction crews on projects or engineering, or 3990, kind of what's your general split? What do you spend most of the day doing?
Geez. Well, I can tell you here recently, the past few days it's been packet. The accounts packet takes a lot of time, getting the financial reports ready, the minutes. it's a lot of the little things that you let sit idle for a while, because then you change your gears. So if I'm focused on 3990, there's something going on with 3990. There may be several little items that fall to the back. And once I take care of a particular issue with 3990, then I come back to them. That's why your financial reports fell behind. Because we had a lot of activity. We had the TM, we had the tech memorandum, we had a lot of issues around the tech memorandum. We had issues with the 3990 development agreement, LOI. I worked on all that stuff. So there, you know, there has to be a give and take in some areas. It can vary. Again, it comes down to the directives you all are giving. Well, so just like I may, like Levon Parkway, I have prepared MOUs for both the property owners to execute, that there's a memorandum of understanding of what work will be taking place on their property. So everybody's all on the same page, along with the contractor. We also have a release that we need them to sign as well. So I reached out to the property owner today at 2510 to share with them that MOU. So it took time to put those together, but then that doesn't mean that something else may come up and take a priority after. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It depends upon what's happening at the time. So you have all these different balls in the air as far as projects, and depending upon the time and if something needs to be elevated, then I may switch gears over to that particular project. Lakeway will probably become a major issue, a major priority for me tomorrow, because it seems to be an easy fix. I hate to put it over, but it does. Work with Shane and his wife and meeting with the property owner along Lakeway to see what they prefer. That should be an easy exercise. It won't take a lot of time other than with Shane and myself meeting with the property owners, documenting what they want. Come back, understand what changes that would mean to the technical memorandum, and then what do I need to present to council. So you got to do your field work. Once you get your field work done, come back and decide legally what do we need to do or technically to move forward with those changes.
Is there anything you can offload to Alex, or is she already slammed the board?
We're both pretty slammed. I mean, a lot. You know, she's doing a great job as far as, you know, the building permits that come in. I don't have to worry about those. You know, we work on the accounting together. She's doing a great job there. She pretty much is filling in a lot of holes where I can't address some of the things that are coming in on a daily basis, which gives me time to focus on, you know, just like Lakeway, what are the next steps? We meet with the property owners. After we meet with them, I know what they all want. Then I need to identify technically what does that mean as far as the technical memorandum, and what does that mean legally. So even though you've done the field work, you still got the technical part that you have to address, and that takes time. Does that help? Or no?
Yeah, I guess I'd kind of like to hear from the council as well, unless, do you want to?
I just had a quick question, and this is an observation over 4 years, 5 years,
Right.
okay?
Right.
Previous to you, and
Right.
even during your 1-year tenure
Right.
so far, which is, in council may have some.
Not quite 1 year.
Oh, yeah, close to it. But council may have some input on that too. We've seen Abio come in and come with a list of projects. We've had engineering done. We've got things that are ready to go. We got road repair that's, we split it up in 2 different phases. And all these things have always gone that way. But they always disappear and they never get done. And that's what's happening now. The road maintenance isn't getting done. That ditch over there, it's had the engineering done for 4 years. We brought it up.
It's not specific to Scott. just
It's
to-
not
just to reiterate
specific to
that,
you.
'cause
But I heard you kind of talking
this-
about this goes up and this goes down, but we're losing those projects.
And I hate to say it, I don't like to admit it sometimes, you know, it's interesting because for years I was the earliest or newest council person. Obviously, I've been on here the longest. I've been through 4 town secretaries, and all 4 of them run into the situation you're running into. And that's why, to me, it's really important to lean on Abiel and other folks to help, you know, give them the latitude to help us run some of that stuff where we can, where we legally can, and where we can bring
to help you out, and obviously have Alex helping with the operations of things, and you're trying to work more strategic, and that's the way.
Yeah, it's
we should
just-
have it.
it-
Because we've had situations, and I won't name names of who, because
Right.
it's happened with multiple, again, 4 different folks that I've been dealing with, but at least 2 of those folks would get too down in the weeds of trying to do the operations and the day-to-day thing to save money. And that doesn't necessarily save us money, because then the strategic goes out the window. So it's a balance, and it's tough, and I know what you're up against, because I've heard it.
Do you see it as a lack of adequate staff
Oh, yeah,
capacity?
for sure.
So,
Absolutely.
Has to be.
It
does
absolutely
that
is.
mean another
And that's why
employee
contractors,
or a
I think
contractor?
contracting is a good way to go, because you can have it flow on that. I think that Aviel and KSA is a good way to go to outsource as much of the road. I've said that for years. As much of the road maintenance and the road management, if we can get a contract with them to help with that, I think we should consider that as a council and doing that, because that way you can be freed up to look at other strategic things for the town, and that also gives us some flexibility. If the budget doesn't allow for us to subcontract for 1 year, then we could, just either not fund it fully or fund it partially. And I think that would be a much better way to go, so trying to put it all on 2 people.
Kent, when you were a contractor, were you able to do some of these projects and stuff like that, or was that not the scope of what you did?
It's not all of what I did, in my business was not that. I've done a bunch over time, and the only problem I have with like an IBO on Levon Parkway where that got all messed up, that's not IBO's specialty, is overseeing
Yeah.
concrete
So
work.
maybe not him, maybe
Right.
not KSA.
And so that almost has to be written into an agreement. I
Right.
thought we had a warranty bond on that, it turned out to be nothing. And so, again, my focus was not pointing a finger at you, it's trying to figure out, we always come in here and we talk about the same stuff, now we're on Vista Oaks and drainage, but we've talked about it.
Right.
And we're on Lakeway over here, but we've talked about it. And nothing ever gets done because something always gets put in that other priority. And the question for me is, how do you see us helping anybody stay on track? Because we've got 50 projects out there and we're only dealing with 2 or 3. And then something else prioritizes. And that puts those others way behind. And the reason I do that, and everybody knows, I ran for the people. And so when those people, like that homeowner that got to you about drainage,
Right.
when he sends a nasty email and complains, he's been to this city for, I know that gentleman, 4 or 5 years with no response.
Right.
And so how do we not let those people fall off of
Right.
that pillar?
Yeah,
So-
and as far as money-wise goes, we see here that we're not in dire straits. Obviously, in fact, we're not spending as much as we probably should, and that happens year over year. So again, it gets back to, we need more horsepower. And I don't know that the right thing to do is to hire another full-time person, but I do think that we need to supplement, with some kind of partial, or at least subcontract, type.
To oversee?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Well, certain bookkeeping functions can easily be.
Yeah, we thought we had someone that we were gonna be able to contract with, folks. Yeah, but we're gonna lose her here soon, because she's gonna retire. So we'll probably reach out to someone else who can handle our QuickBooks for us. We're getting a little bit better. I know Alex is a little more comfortable with it, but I think it would be something, I think it would be something that if we could contract it out, it would be not only in the best interest for Alex and myself, but for the community. I do know of one other individual who does that work on the side, who does it for several cities, so we just need to find the right person.
But, I've heard you've become quite good with permitting and with communication to people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you're stuck doing a lot of QuickBook entry, you can't do the things
I've
that...
never done QuickBooks in my life. I have never done any kind of accounting, and dealing with all the money is, it makes me a little uncomfortable, to be honest,
But we
because
can-
I don't have
we
the
can-
experience.
We can outsource
Yeah.
bookkeeping
Right.
and allow you to do the things that you're
Right.
becoming quite good
I
at.
think we've come quite far, and Scott has too. I think we really have done a great job, but I think the biggest problem that we have is that this town's been operating for almost 50 years, or maybe more than 50 years, but nobody's ever written anything down on how to do anything. And so every time new staff comes in, we're starting over. And we are working on making SOPs,
But I mean, we have people calling all day, walking in all day, we have all these projects we're doing, so it's just hard to sit and focus on those.
It's hard to change the tire when you're driving down the street.
Well, and then I don't, Scott's been doing this for 25 years, and I've been doing it for 1 year, so I have to rely on him for a lot of knowledge, and I can't always just make decisions and do things because I don't have the experience.
How much man hours, woman hours are spent per week on information requests?
Oh, gosh.
Well, I mean,
It's hard to
the PIRs are, the one in particular obviously is going to town council or legal council review. It's basically pulling the data together. Like the last one we just did, maybe a couple hours I spent going through emails. I don't know how much time you spent.
Yeah, maybe an hour.
Yeah.
So far, I don't feel like they've been very robust. It's more the quantity.
Because council sees some of them, but I assume there's others we
There
don't see.
are
Yeah,
others.
the others are pretty boilerplate.
There's one lady that's a realtor that requests the code enforcement reports every month. I already have that in a spreadsheet anyway, so I just extract the monthly data and send it to her. That's super quick. The ones that we've been getting lately have been pretty quick, but I am a little concerned about the one today. That's going to be extremely hard.
That expense eats into that part of being able to do the repairs and the oversight you're talking
Well,
about.
we've got a certain amount of capacity between our two staff, and, if something else gets thrown in there with an information request with a 10-day
Turnaround.
demand,
That comes up priority.
it has to,
Yeah.
and then a pothole gets pushed aside.
Right.
Right.
So how do you get more help, Scott, to help lessen?
I think we
the
start with the
capacity?
bookkeeping, but I think that would be priority number one.
Could you report to us next council what you've done to increase capacity at the town?
Yes, sir.
Just keep us posted on
And
that.
recommendations.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
ideas.
And can we get like just a rough breakdown of like what percentage you spend on certain things, like, it can be broad, 3990 versus drainage versus road maintenance,
Yeah,
just so we know.
I can give that to you, but keep in mind, like I was mentioning, it may fluctuate. So,
Yeah.
one week I may be focusing on 3990. Next week it may be Patel, because all of a sudden things blow up down Patel. The other week it may be ESD. I mean, it can be all over the map.
I think that's
Can
fine.
we be careful not to use names?
Yes.
Yeah, we can have some.
Reference
generic
properties,
subject.
maybe.
Addresses.
Let's not
Yeah.
give
So,
names.
yeah.
But that's fine. That at least gives us some information to figure out where your time's going, which I think is good.
Even a quick summary over the last month, since our last council, these have been the key priorities that I've worked on. These are the
So the
key
one I sent out
projects.
at the end of April, did you find that useful?
Very much so.
Okay, so I'll do the same thing, usually by the third week of each month. No later than the end. I'll send the same type of report.
Because it can spark questions, ideas,
Right.
thoughts,
Right.
recommendations
Right.
before a council meeting.
Okay.
And I guess on that, just like what percentage of your time, like did that take you? Like, just so we know, like roughly.
Okay.
I think that's all I've got for that.
Anybody else with discussion?
No.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move to item 8, executive session, as authorized by Chapter 551, Subchapter D of the Texas Government Code. The regular meeting will be convened into closed executive session under the following exceptions. Section 551.071, the consultation with the attorney, zoning and various land use matters, fire protection and ETJ services, town boundaries, and related state law and pending legislation. Let's see.
We're on, by the way.
Yes, this is both of theirs. Do I need, Bob's has his name on it. So, the other one, I don't know that Bill has it on there unless it's at the end. So are we out of
Yes.
executive? Okay, we came out. Do I have a motion for meeting to be adjourned?
Also motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Thank you, Clark.
Let's see, there's 2 public comments. There, JT Trevino.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. She said I was supposed to give you these, Scott. That's the election stuff, oath of office forms.
Okay.
That's what Alex said.
Okay.
I thought they said notary, but she goes, you can sign them.
Okay.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clark.